All right. Well, we're back again. Another episode of Understory Unfiltered. We've got a very special guest here, Stephen Hakami, founder and CEO of Wizza, a data platform that is beloved by so many, including us. We use it all the time, and they've really become a pretty, at this point, a household name in the data space. So, Stephen, thank you for coming on. Would love to have you do a quick introduction of yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you, about Wizza. Let's get into it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, I'm Steven. I founded Wizza about 6.5 years ago now, which is pretty crazy to say. After a short kind of career in sales, working at a conference company. Um, and yeah, kind of stumbled our way into the data space after, just having like a really specific need in my sales job for accurate emails at the time, and we've expanded from there. And yeah, it's been a fun journey and excited to chat with you guys.
We're excited to have you. So obviously we know a lot about the platform. We've been using it a ton. And also, been helping you run your ads for the last, I don't know, 6, 8 months, something like that. But if you could tell everyone a little bit more about Wizza, how you guys differentiate yourself. One of the core components that I use all the time is the Chrome extension. So that's a big part of everything. But yeah, if you
Mhm.
want to give everyone a quick rundown of how Wizza differentiates itself, why you guys are able to have such accurate data, I think that's going to be really helpful for everyone to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start with kind of like the background of how we got started in the first place. So, um, I was working in sales at a conference company where we kind of had a unique issue where we were always prospecting into new geographies. So we had no kind of like predetermined customers because all of a sudden we'd have an event in Chicago and we had no prospects or past customers there. And on top of that, we had a very specific timeline. So the conference would be in 100 days. So speed to, reaching out to as many people as possible was incredibly important. And so I just found the tools that were out there to be pretty slow and pretty inaccurate with emails. And so I was getting high bounce rates. It took me a ton of time to find all these leads. And so I was kind of bouncing between tools. Like I would bounce between a LinkedIn Sales Nav scraper tool, and then I would use Hunter at the time to like find a bunch of emails. And then by the time I actually went and verified those emails with like a Google Sheets extension that I had at the time, I'd be left with like 28% valid emails. And there was just that huge drop off, and it took a ton of time. But even in that workflow, there were kind of a lot of efficiencies. So I thought like maybe there's value for this in general. People generally trust the data that's on LinkedIn versus data that's in, a platform like ZoomInfo. So we made kind of the V1 of Wizza, which was honestly exactly that, like just different APIs, scraping a search, finding emails, and then verifying those emails. And one thing we saw when we launched is that people really appreciated the email verification built into the email finding. So at the time, we didn't even have a subscription model. It was just we bill you 15 cents for every valid email we find, and everything else is free. And so yeah, we had early success there, and kind of as the platform has evolved to what it is today, which is, full prospecting platform, whether you're using it on the Chrome extension or you're using it within the Wizard platform. Um, we still obviously take those steps. We somewhat pride ourselves on being the slowest email finder out there because we do these live verifications. And so that's a trade-off that, our users generally make for more accurate data. Um, and so we check the job title in real time, the company in real time, and the email status. And so, yeah, it's a big piece of what we do. A lot of our customers do data tests before buying any platform or when they're considering switching. And so we lean really heavily on the data. And um, yeah, so that's a bit more about us.
Yeah, it makes sense. And you even made a post recently about you being prideful about how slow the verification process was. You're like, I've been sitting here for 30 minutes waiting for this this list to load. But the accuracy rates are phenomenal. And I even ran a test a while ago and I saw the exact same thing. Like, yeah, the API, even natively within Clay, it's slower. It's slower than your
Hmm.
competition. But the accuracy is amazing, and you don't have to run a second API to validate it afterwards, which is a phenomenal
Hmm.
asset. And I think it's just one, people like to platformize their systems, right? Like no one wants 17 different point solutions. Everyone wants one place where they can go and they can do everything, which is why companies like Clay have thrived because they have all these integrations included, right?
Hmm.
But something like Wizza too, it's like you can get your phone numbers, you can get your emails, you can get it validated, you can track job changes, you can do all kinds of stuff all within one platform. So it does feel like you guys have a huge leg up on your competition because none of them are doing that comprehensively and with that much accuracy. So I can attest to it
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, there's kind of like in the data space, like two tiers. There's like the email finder type tools, and then there's the data platforms. And so we're definitely trying to move more in that data platform category where companies that don't want to have a whole bunch of tools and a verifier and all these different things and figure all that stuff out and want to just give their reps one platform. Um, that's really what we're building towards.
In terms of all like the APIs that you're working with, I feel like things are changing on a daily basis. Like, companies are shipping new, API like languages and all of that, like the actual like labels that they're using. Like, how do you maintain that those systems for all the different parts of the process when you're validating those emails?
Um, in what sense? Like how we actually continue to verify the emails?
Yeah, my understanding is it's like a dynamic like percentage. Like things are always changing. Like there's parts of the process that break. Like how do you monitor the system as a whole? If that makes sense.
Yeah, so we've actually never done so there's parts of the verification that we do ourselves. Um, and we do that when essentially an email verifier can't give us an answer somehow. But we do just go to a third party as a first step. That also helps with our customers create trust because we charge based on those valid emails, and so it's not us saying that, hey, this is a valid email. Um, and so we wait for a response from, in some case, multiple API providers, and we don't have to deal with as much of, of the verification in-house
Got it. So you're passing the verification basically on to those third parties?
most of the time. Yeah,
Got it. Okay. And do you
It's
need
awesome.
to,
It's like, I was just gonna say it's like waterfall enrichment within the same platform.
exactly. Yeah,
and
under the hood.
so do you have to switch those providers regularly or do you feel like it's pretty static?
We do have to switch, and just general like optimizations. Um, there's speed, price, and accuracy. Obviously, accuracy being the most important. So, um, users will sometimes tell us, "Hey, this came back valid," but it actually bounced, and so we score our verifiers, and we can say, "Hey, this one's underperforming for whatever reason," and can kind of switch those out.
So you built out like a scoring system or is it not as like robust as I'm making it sound?
Somewhere in between. Yeah, I mean, we generally have a good sense of like which ones, you know, which ones are better quality and which ones are worse quality. Um, and then there's also the piece of obviously verifying the risky emails, and um, that seems to change a lot in accuracy. A lot of times, like certain provider will be good at verifying risky emails, and then they'll kind of drop off. So. Um, Yeah, it's not as fully automated where like, oh, it fell below this. It's more just like us investigating, okay, this said valid, what actually happened here?
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like you guys have really come a long way in terms of just the development and the process behind it because it's not just, Wiz is doing all this work behind the scenes. It's like Wiz is partnering with all these companies behind the scenes to make this happen and give you the most accurate data for the best rate. Not maybe the fastest, but the most accurate data for the best rates. So it's interesting. And there's a lot of development that goes into that because integrations are super difficult. Making it secure is super difficult. It's like all the things that you guys have been able to do are actually really impressive when you know how this stuff works on the back end.
Yeah, it's a lot of looking back, it's a lot of pieces. that have kind of come together nicely. But just like small improvements over 6 years you know, has yielded good results there. So yeah, small incremental improvements.
Yeah, and I know you guys also have a substantial component of your team in engineering. It's like out of the entire Wiza team, a lot of that team is engineers. So it seems like you've really invested heavily into that, which makes sense, which is why the product works as well as it does and it feels as premium as it does. And frankly, if you go to your website versus any other email finder or verification tool, it just feels more polished, more playful, more fun. It feels like you guys have really honed in on that and made it into a system that's smooth, that works, and it just looks polished, which
Mm,
is also pretty cool.
appreciate that. Yeah, what's interesting with us is like we spent our first probably 4 years really not having much of like a sales or marketing team. I think like I did all our marketing until 2 years ago, maybe. Um, and sales, we didn't have much of a sales motion until like late 2024. And it was a lot of just like, you know, if someone requested a demo, yeah, we'd take the demo with them, but we didn't have any sort of process around that. Um, which was really allowed us to like focus on the product for a number of years. And it let us be frankly like, profitable during those years to fund kind of this like next growth stage. So yeah, I think that's like an interesting part of our story of like really focusing in on product.
Yeah. I think there's one thing you just said that's super interesting that I think a lot of people have no idea about, which is super impressive, which I'm about to touch on. And then there's another thing I want to talk about. But number one, you've been running this company for 6 years, right? And I don't know, are you comfortable? I feel like no one knows this, but you're what, 27?
Yeah, that's the thing about it.
So you
Yeah.
started the company at 21. You've
Yeah.
bootstrapped it the entire time. We'll get to revenue in a minute, but I have an idea where you're at, and it's an extremely impressive number considering you're bootstrapped and you're 27 years old.
Thanks.
But with that said, also the other thing I want to talk about is specific to engineering, because you and I talked about this in New York, and I thought it was a fascinating story. I know you really care about your team. Like I've seen it firsthand. Like you are definitely a real leader. You definitely really care about all the people on your team, and everyone's extremely happy that works at Wiza, which is a really hard thing to do as a founder. And the company almost died at one point, and it's because you were at the earlier stages. You only had one engineer on the team, I believe, right at that
Hmm.
time. And then unfortunately, he passed away,
Hmm.
and you had to basically hack into his systems in order to make things actually work and not lose the entire product. But I think that's a super interesting story. I'd love to hear it from you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely the craziest, most unexpected part of our journey. So yeah, we had someone that was, our sole developer, but really more like a co-founder, really helped shape a lot of the initial product, coming up with a lot of kind of innovative data, tactics and yeah, just a great guy to work with overall. And unfortunately he did pass away kind of maybe 2.5 years into the company. Maybe a little more than that. I think we were around 3 million of revenue at the time. And yeah, it was obviously just a difficult time losing both a friend and, someone so important to the business. So we at at the time, like the website was going down. I had to just drive around anywhere I left the house. I would bring my laptop in case I had to restart the server. And yeah, it was just a very panic time. Um, and luckily, a close friend of mine had previously worked with a super talented developer who joined as our CTO and um, was able to essentially rescue us from bring us back to life. And yeah, we didn't have any of the code like even on GitHub. It was uh, local on the machine of the previous developer, and he was also in uh, in Morocco. So it was just a really really crazy time. On top of that, we usually if you switch developers, you there's some like knowledge passing on of like, hey, this is what this does. This is the reason why this code was written this way, and none of that existed. So he really had to jump in to. He describes it as like archaeology of just like, okay, why is this like this, and really figuring out at the same time like we have customers, we have growth goals, and we have features that our customers really want or specific data things we want to look into. And so yeah, just a chaotic time, but we came out from it, and have been able to grow our team since. And yeah, learned a lot from that experience. I would say, um, I think like yeah, moments of um, kind of like anything else in life, like anything that's very difficult makes other issues in the future seem a lot more trivial. And so even like, let's say our app went down today, you know, it, it would it would feel like nothing compared to that. So uh yeah, I think like as a leader of any company, like it's how you act and like, you know, uh lead, I guess, in those like very difficult high stress times. Um and that's what your job really is, more so than like when you're growing and things are going well, like that feels kind of easy. So um yeah, really a crazy part, but a big part of like our journey as a company.
Yep. Yeah, it's an insane story. I mean, it really is. It's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in
Yeah,
all business, honestly.
Yeah. What
Um,
was his name, the developer in Morocco?
his name is Ryan.
Brian. And is any of his code still in the current code
Oh
base
yeah.
for? That's awesome. That's kind of
Oh
a cool
yeah.
legacy, you know? It's
yeah,
like,
it's an amazing legacy. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think another thing, you're a pretty humble guy. Notice that you're more on the quieter and more humble side, which is cool. But I think just a testament to your character too. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you still send checks to his family sometimes, don't you? And you still try to
Mhm.
support them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in touch with his mom, and yeah, we have a good relationship there, and yeah, I'm glad I was able to you know get in touch with her. Actually, initially, um, me and Ryan had actually never like we spoke entirely through text, like on Snapchat actually. So I didn't really have any connection, so just to get to her was difficult. Um, but yeah, I'm happy that kind of all that was able to to get worked out.
It's an awesome thing. It's like even, given that he passed, it's like he's still leaving a legacy within the product. He's still helping take care of his
Hmm.
family. It's a really cool story. I think it's an inspiring story too. Just like you guys deserve all the success. I think it's a testament to the culture you built. So really cool.
Thank you.
With that
Yeah,
said, oh, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, well, one thing that was interesting was like I definitely felt like, especially coming out of that, like a lot of guilt of like, you know, especially with a software product where it might have been your idea, but you didn't really like build it. You didn't write the code. And so
Mm.
it did feel a bit, I had a bit like a moment of um just guilt of like, this isn't like feels like I'm taking this thing over that really was something that both of us were doing. And so um yeah, it's uh, tons of lessons just like from that whole experience.
Yeah, both personal and professional. I can't even imagine a situation like that. It's a crazy story. But
Yeah.
to flip it over to a higher note, with that said, I feel like you've really made him proud, Ryan. Um, you guys are crushing it. Maybe it's a bit of a secret. You guys are past 10 million ARR at this point, completely bootstrapped. The team is what? How many people at this point?
We're 24 people today.
24 people, 10 million ARR bootstrapped. Really impressive numbers. You just opened a brand new office in New York, in Manhattan. You're having these events, you're connecting the dots between some of the coolest leaders in tech. You're really doing amazing stuff. So I feel like it's a testament not only to the work that you've done yourself, but it's like Ryan's legacy. You guys have done some really cool stuff and really made him proud beyond his initial life. It's really cool.
Hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You guys with your tiered pricing, talk to us a little bit about the pricing. How have you guys been able to crack such a big revenue number? How have you gotten to where you are? You guys have a freemium model. You guys do the taste test before people actually dive in head first. Talk to us about it, and I'm sure there's some trials and tribulations too to get to the model that actually worked. But talk to us about the pricing model that's stuck, because I think a lot of data companies really struggle with this. Like, we work directly with Adam Robinson in our B2B. He's been very vocal about it. He struggles to come up with his own pricing, and it's been a hiccup for him. And so I'm really curious how you guys have been able to nail that.
Yeah, pricing is really difficult because it's one of those things that's like very hard to change. Um, but it's huge impact, and you don't really know where that right number is, other than, it should feel simple and it should feel right. Like, that's how I looked at it when we spent a lot of time on it like a year and a half ago. Um, and so we have experimented a lot with our pricing. Like I said, we started at just 15 cents an email, just out of like, as a customer, that's what I would want. I'm tired of subscriptions. Uh, I just want to pay as much as I use it. And so we literally just had like, put your credit card in, whatever you find when your report finishes, we'll charge you 15 cents per valid email. Um, and that got us like kind of our wedge into the market, but it's hard to build a sustainable business without recurring revenue. Um, and so from there we launched credit-based plans where we charge a monthly fee based on the number of credits that you wanted, and then um, we incentivized annual with getting the year's credits up front, and then I think it was getting like 2 months free, which is like somewhat standard in the space. And so we had that for a little while, and then people wanted custom plans, especially as we added phone numbers. And so we added an ability for people to set the number of emails and phones that they wanted. Um, but then it got even more confusing as we started to sell to uh, enterprise, or just like, teams in general, where it's like, we do this demo with them. It's like, how many people are on your team? Uh, how many emails do you typically use in a month? How many phones do you typically use in a month? And then it's like, well, the SDR team uses a lot of phones, the AE team maybe five, and then we had to like figure out this number. And if we didn't get the number right, it always had to be right sized. So in a few months, we might have to increase it, or when the renewal comes around, they might love the product, but they actually need to decrease their subscription. And so what we realized is like, we need to get away from this credit model, because at least on the sales side, because you know it's creating friction at the renewal, because if someone has a bunch of credits left over, even if they love the product, they don't feel right about buying a ton of more credits, nor should they. um, and they don't really get, when you charge based on credits, they don't really get that. Like any other subscription, you're also kind of just paying for time with the platform. Like, when I use Slack, like, it doesn't matter if I sent 1,000 messages or 10,000. It's it's also just time on the platform, which, when you're so tied to credits, people don't fully get. So we switched to this unlimited model so that we could just charge based on the number of seats. Um, and we put a fair use cap, that what we saw was like 10x higher than the average customer was using. And so, especially these enterprise customers, they're using less data. They're not building like massive lists. It's like the SDR is reaching out to 50, 75 people per day. And so that significantly helped. It made the conversations a lot easier from a pricing perspective on the sales process. Obviously, come renewal time, it became a lot easier because it was just, you know, it was just, do you guys like the platform? Yes. Okay, let's continue. Do you have any seats to add? Yes or no? And so that was a huge part of it. And then we tried to think like, if we think of our business in two ways, like the sales side and the PLG side. Um, and so when we looked at the data on the PLG side, we saw that on average, customers stuck around for 8 months. There were a lot that stuck a lot longer, but there were just so many, you know, I'm just trying out cold email for the first time. You build a list, you don't get a ton of results because you don't really quite know what you're doing yet, and you leave. People looking for jobs, and so they just sign up for a month, get a bunch of emails. Um, and so, but on average, it was about 8 months. And so we're like, let's heavily incentivize the annual plan here. And so we took the same model to our annual plans. So if someone pays annually, they get unlimited access. Again, there's a fair use cap on the exporting, so you can't pull more than, I think right now it's 30,000 out of the platform, but you can do unlimited kind of individuals as you go, either on LinkedIn or within Wisdom. And so that's worked really well for us. It's just made things a lot simpler. My philosophy with like everything product wise is I always try to take like the simplest route possible. So if like we're debating between two options, whatever's just easier for a customer to understand, I'll usually take. And so yeah, I think it's helped us a lot. I think the credit model was difficult to work with, and so I think it is a piece of our journey. So yeah, it's helped for sure.
It makes a lot of sense. Oh, go ahead, Ali.
I was gonna say, I feel like it's attractive for both sides of the spectrum too, like the enterprise players that you were just saying, and then the smaller players who are just using the product. So that's super interesting. What like percentage of your revenue right now is like enterprise versus those smaller tiers, if you know?
Yeah, right now it's just over 25% is enterprise versus PLG.
Nice.
Um, we kind of have it modeled out to flip where it'll be 75% sales side. But just, the sales team being newer coming in late 2024, um, we just haven't scaled it up there, but we have, plans to kind of aggressively scale there.
Yeah. And what's super cool is I feel like you're also unseating a lot of the older incumbents that were super expensive. You guys can come in with the lower price and it's just super attractive. So super exciting.
I don't
Yeah.
know how these data platforms got away with the pricing that they had for so long. Honestly, I have no idea how that was possible. I hear people come in, and I won't name drop anybody, but I hear people come in and say, "Hey, we're working with this data provider, and they're charging us 120K." And I'm like, "Okay, what are the data limits on that?" And they're like, "Oh, it's this number," and I cannot believe how small these numbers are for what they're charging. And they're just doing it behind a brand name, and companies have become, billion-dollar market cap companies this way. It's insane.
You've just named it. You've named the company. It's
Yeah.
ZoomInfo.
I mean,
Well,
yeah,
it's the unfiltered podcast, right?
yeah, it's true.
No, but we see that all the time. I mean, on the sales side, like definitely the company we bump into the most is ZoomInfo. And I always found it just really interesting, like if you just go on LinkedIn and you didn't know anything else about what's happening, like you would think ZoomInfo is like a, I don't know, like older kind of legacy platform. Not many people use it anymore. Like everyone's on Clay and these Clay and
Not true.
Apollo or whatever. It's not true at all. Actually, like it's so what's current is, I guess like the market takes a lot of time to adapt. But we see, people switching from ZoomInfo all the time. We listen to their earnings calls all the time because it's just like
That's
super
awesome.
interesting to hear what they're like, yeah, what they're focused on and what their like retention is like. And they still have such a stranglehold on like the 100K plus, you know, customers, like, you know, uh, Chase Bank is not using Play and or Wizza or any of these other names. So they really have done, you know, when you have the reputation of being a public company, of course that helps, but they've done a really good job in those segments. And obviously, um, just like data governance and building that trust to be able to sell to those companies. Um, but yeah, it is interesting, just like the talk you hear on LinkedIn versus like what's actually happening in the market. Not to say that like companies like ours aren't growing, but it's just like there's a big difference.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah,
And I
we
mean,
live
we
in
hear
a
all the time.
bubble.
Yeah, it is. We live in an echo
Yeah.
chamber. There's no doubt about it. You see on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, it's like 10,000 people in this tiny little echo chamber that are all posting content all the time. And 10,000 people combined does have a substantial reach, and it is changing the narrative around data cost, data consumption, data accuracy,
Yeah.
things like that, what you actually should be spending on. Let's call it what it is, a commoditized product, right? It's like what you actually should be spending. And I
Mhm.
think it is starting to make noise, but like you said, it's slower than people think. I get on sales calls 5 times a week, probably at least, where someone says, "So if I purchase Clay, does that mean I can cancel Zoom info?" It's the most common question I get asked. And it's like, the answer is unfortunately yes. But yeah, that's the truth, and that's what it is. But it's like, yeah, it's coming up more and more. We're seeing it across the board.
Mm.
So, Steven, you said your goal is to switch to 75% sales on that
Mhm.
side. More broadly, what are your company goals? Is it Wiz a stock ticker, or what are you looking to do?
That, I mean, that would be nice. I think like in my head, the number I'm focused on is getting to 100 million ARR. Um, and I think that's just like the next goalpost. Not to say that it won't move at one point, but um, yeah, that's what we're focused on.
And so, to be clear, I know you're past 10 million, but what are you guys at today?
Right around 13.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That number's crazy because I feel like people see these data platforms on Clay. You see like Prospio, Wizza, like some of your competitors, right? Prospio, Wizza, Lead Magic, all these different companies, and you have no idea. It's like I know the founders of a lot of these companies personally, and it's like you guys. I will say you guys are bigger than most of them, but they're doing millions in ARR themselves, all of them. It's like it's pretty crazy. This entire space just has so much steam behind it because data is one of those things. Every company needs it, and every company needs accurate data, and no company wants to do the rework to replace inaccurate data because it's
Hmm.
just a nightmare of a system. So it's like everyone's winning right now. I think where you guys are doing it is just better accuracy, better branding, and consistency. You guys have been around for 6 years, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it's built up. I mean, we always like me and the COO always talk about like, you know, I wish we were just a software because data is a lot more difficult because you know, if you especially if you want to build a platform on top of it, like being an API data provider, okay, that's one thing, but you know, trying to maintain the data while also building like features and a platform is pretty difficult because they are two very different things. And we've always talked about like Gong as an example where we're like, first of all, we love Gong. We spend like, I don't know, 10 grand a year on it.
I saw your
And
post
it's like,
yesterday that you fall asleep watching Gong.
yeah, I love using Gong, but it's just like, it doesn't really do anything. Like I don't even know, like it just like HubSpot already recorded our calls and annotated it, but it just like is a bit nicer to access it and like you know all they talk about all the like coaching and stuff and like maybe other companies use it, but for us at least like we don't really use that stuff. I think we kind of use the pipeline, but like it's really just for like a call recorder that's like easy to like skim through. And it's like, you know, we get on calls like with data where we have to do these like data tests and comparisons, and it's like, oh, it must be so nice to just sell something that's just like purely software, and there is no data component. Um, but yeah, it's sometimes like a space that's more difficult, creates a bit of a moat, and when you do kind of figure out all the pieces, it leads to a better opportunity. So I'm happy to be in the space that we're in, but yeah, the data space is is a lot. There's a lot of revenue in scheme mining, like you said, but it's also difficult for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's also all sorts of compliance issues you've got to deal with. It's a
Yeah.
totally different beast. It's a totally different beast. And as you know, our friends in Europe and our friends in other parts of the world take that stuff very seriously. So I'm sure it's a constant dance that you
Yeah,
guys are doing.
yeah.
Do you ever
Um,
APR
think about like
requests.
diversifying away, like in some sort of way, just like, you know, to avoid like what keeps you up at night and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say like kind of the platform play is in line with that. So I think like the more software we can build as part of the workflow, to make data more of like an afterthought. Like one thing Apollo has done really well, you know, being that all-in-one solution, like there are just being in the space, like I meet people in my personal life and they're like, oh, should I use you guys to like start sending emails? And they want to send like 10 emails and they've never done it. And frankly, I'm just like, probably just use Apollo because it's like it's all in one, and the software brings a lot of value. And so, you know, I don't mind saying that because that's not really the market we're going after. Like someone just trying out cold email for the first time or sending a few emails here and there, but it's not going to be, just to do all the setup that's required and get another cold email platform and stuff like that. Sometimes it's easier, better to have worse data, to just have it all in one. And so, um, yeah, what we want to do is kind of like maintain that data and create that same ease of use, a bit more upmarket. But um, yeah, so I think like all that to say, I think the more software products you kind of build on top of the data, the more diversified you are there.
Makes sense. I have a question for you too. So you're talking about the idea of not selling just data and having an actual software as well. How are you guys planning to incorporate AI more and more? Like, is it going to be AI SDR functionality? Like, talk to me about that because I feel like what you guys have done right now is away from AI. It's just created a really solid system. But how are you guys incorporating AI? Because I feel like that, and especially in this space, in outbound sales, marketing, AI is just everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this thing that we use to shape our product that's like this pyramid of what's most important to us, and data is obviously kind of the core foundation to it. And the next layer up from there is signals. And so we started signals with a monitor which tracks for job changes, but we want to continually add more signals there. Um, and so there are platforms, like Clay and other tools where they're they're really great at using AI, um, but you kind of want to know like what you're building towards. So like if you work with a client and they're like, okay, we know we sell really well to companies that whatever this signal exists or this is listed on their website or whatever, you can build the perfect table for them that's getting them the right prospects or qualifying them or whatever. Um, and we feel like the more signals we can bring in-house into Wiza, um, we can eventually, um, essentially, essentially, the more data and signals that's all in one platform, the more we can basically figure out who the best prospects are for for companies without them necessarily having to know that. Um, Especially if we build an engagement platform and can know reply rates. And so AI is really good at uncovering those patterns. So just to give you an example, say we have a customer, they're getting all these signals and we're seeing what emails they send, and we can see that for whatever reason, the best emails they send, those people were hiring at least 4 SDRs on LinkedIn at the time. Um, and so rather than the customer having to figure out like what are our best signals and what is our perfect like ICP match, um, we can be automatically figuring that out based on what's actually working for them. So that's kind of the long-term vision, is really just like we have all these prospects, company signs up, and as they start using our platform, we know who the best people for them to reach out is, and whether that's automated or we just are telling them, you know, we will see. But um, that's kind of the vision there. So how we get there is really bringing in as many signals as possible into that monitor product, um, and starting to find those patterns and expanding from there. So yeah, that's kind of our longer term vision there.
It makes perfect sense. And this is very stupid of me to say because you could literally just take our business out, part of it. But like to me, the perfect solution just feels like build those signals, plug them into HubSpot and Salesforce. When there's some sort of activity, it routes that signal directly to HubSpot or Salesforce, which is all stuff, by the way, that we built today in Clay for our clients.
Mm,
But it routes those signals, sends a notification to the rep that's assigned, and then maybe also pushes a Slack notification, something like that. Like having that functionality just embedded into a CRM, it seems like such a no-brainer. And I haven't seen any company capitalize on it in a way that's better than the custom stuff that we're building today. But I feel like it's just such low-hanging fruit. It's like have those signals populate in there. Or let's say you're looking at a contact or a company within HubSpot or Salesforce, press the Wizza button, right? And it's like when you press the Wizza button pulls in all the signals and anything that's happened within that company that'll be relevant for you based on you programming it behind the scenes or like an implementation, right? It's got all your company information basically trained on whatever company you are, right? You press the
mm,
Wizza button. Here's all the relevant insights about why you should reach out to this company and the right contact to reach out to based on what your company does and what it sells. Boom. It's like monster integration.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, another thing we'd love to do is hook into, the company's own data, whether that be in the CRM or something like
Exactly.
Gong or past calls. And it's like, hey, because all these external signals, like everyone kind of has the same ones. And so anything that's specific to the company is going to be a lot more powerful. So if it's like, you know, this guy talked to a former SDRs of yours 2 years ago and he said he was on a 2-year contract or whatever that looks like.
Exactly. It's like an internal brain that can contextualize all the information and give you the right reasons to reach out at the right time.
Mm,
It's like that's the
hmm.
gold standard. And it's like that's what we try to build with all the stuff we build in Clay. And it does work well, but it's a lot of legwork. There's a lot of
Yeah.
building behind the scenes. Everything is completely bespoke. It's not templatized. It's not just like build it, plug it in. It's very much like we need to build custom things for every single client that we work with. Plus, we need to collect as much internal data about them as we can. And whether we use it in document context within Clay, whether we build a custom Claude project, we build an N8N agent that's going to do something like that. It's like it's always bespoke. It's different every single time. And
Mm,
that's what I'm saying. Like if you're able to create that brain internally using whatever product or just Wizza, and then just be able to press the Wizza button and get all the information, I think that right there is $1 billion idea.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's the goal. There's a lot of steps to it, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's never easy. It always sounds way
yeah.
better than it is
Yeah.
actually putting it into practice. But oh my God, that would just one, it would take us out of business, which would suck. On one side of the business. We still have the whole paid media side of the business. But yeah, oh my God, that would just be unbelievable for pretty much every sales organization that exists.
Mm.
Going back
Um,
to product rollouts, like you recently released Wisdom Monitor. We helped promote it on the ad side, but what was the biggest lesson from that rollout that you learned, Stephen?
Yeah, so we created a lot of buzz around it that went super well. We did, proper beta testing. I think this one was like a launch of, learning from past launches where we kind of just like we did nothing before. And so we took a pretty like measured approach this time. But I would say on the product, one thing I underestimated is um the amount of so we had like maybe about 100 users beta tested, and I worked pretty closely with a lot of them, and the ones I worked closely with have, you know a lot of them have gone on to buy Monitor. And the ones I didn't work as closely with didn't. And so one thing I guess I underestimated there is like, yeah, the amount of hand holding required with it. Um, I I don't know why. I'm still kind of trying to figure out why, this one specifically, like other launches we've done, it was very aligned to what we did, but like when we first built like was a prospect, people just naturally like flowed into it. Um, and so yeah, I think it's one where there's a bit more education and a bit more like, this is why you would even want an alert on a job change, or like these are the type of people that other people monitor and get good results for, or past champions of yours convert at 6 times higher rate than just a random prospect. And so um yeah, we've done a good job now selling it to people who are like, oh, I was actually looking for like a job change tracker. But what we have to now do a better job of is kind of the long term, like how do we educate our current customers of like why this is a great source of leads, and really work with them on doing that and have a motion to do that, because a lot of the team is focused on just new business right now. And so we have to figure out how that all works in. So that's one of my personal goals this quarter to get better at.
Makes sense. And quickly, what this is just I want you to give me like a very high level answer. Don't go too into the weeds here, but like what has been the primary growth driver for Wizza in the last, I mean, it seems like you guys have had a steady climb up, but in the last 2 years where I feel like you guys have really gotten to big boy numbers or big girl
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. Uh yeah, it really has been the last like year and a half, 2 years. I think it would just be like at a high level, like just the sales and marketing. We took like the right approach on the sales side. We built things out slowly. Our VP of sales started selling the product rather than just hiring a team, and he learned a lot from that, and that shaped our product. Um, and on the marketing side, once we started like marketing more aggressively, we already had like hundreds of thousands of freemium users, and we were less known, but it just kind of all made things a lot easier. Like when we did the product on launch for Monitor, we had users to go to help promote it. And so um yeah, just layering in the sales and marketing at the right time, getting the right people in place to lead those functions. Um and they've done a great job there. But yeah, I'm excited to see where they take it.
Yep. That's awesome. It's awesome to hear sales and marketing actually works, you know?
Yeah.
It's a crazy story actually. So this is totally random, but it just came to mind. And we live in this space. Like Ali and I literally built a business in this space together, right? We know all about every tool that exists, all the different tactics that are going on. A lot of times we're pioneering the new tactics. But like for me personally, I hadn't heard of Wizza until about 2 years ago. Like
Mm.
2 years ago, I discovered it. Uh, a year ago, I think we probably connected for the first time, and then call it 8 months ago, we started working together. Right. With that said, I have a friend that owns 7 pizza restaurants, like a chain of 7 pizza restaurants in Atlanta, where I'm from. And he's like way more innovative than any restaurant owner you'd ever imagine. Came from investment banking, went into restaurant ownership, and now he's really into like lead gen, right? He built his entire catering system using Wizza as his data platform in the
No way.
restaurant. So he's like going after office managers for catering orders, all these things. And he was the one who actually told me about Wizza the first time. He was like, "Have you ever heard of Wizza?" I was like, "How the hell do you know Wizza?"
That's
But whatever you
hilarious.
guys were doing 4 or 5 years ago, somehow he found you guys. And
That is amazing.
yeah, I thought that was just a super interesting story. He was like, "Oh, you know the founders of Wizza?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do."
I
It was a
had
crazy story.
I had two great moments of people knowing or using Wizard. One was pretty early on. I don't know how he initially found it, but it was like 4 years ago. I was in the Bahamas. I sat down at a blackjack table. I started talking to this guy, and he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" Whatever. And I was like, "Oh, we have this." We were kind of just explaining it, and he's like, "Oh, is it kind of like Wizza?" And I was like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And so that felt amazing. And then just like a month ago, a lot of our team is in Toronto, which is where I'm originally from, and we we were all doing just like a WeWork day, working together in person, and we heard someone say talk about Apollo near us, and so we kind of like looked over and started chatting with them, and I see on their screens they all have like the Wizza extension, um, like open on their LinkedIn, just coincidentally. So yeah, moments like that are cool. We're just like, what are the odds of that? Like, it's a lot of people using it, but in the scheme of the world, it's not. So yeah,
Well, hopefully more and more, increasingly.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the hometown.
yeah.
One more question for you. I actually have two more questions for you. One, I'm just going to throw a total curveball at you. But the first one, I'd love to know where the name came from and the logo because I love it personally.
Yeah, so I've got all our three logos behind me. So the name, so I wanted to call it Wizard. And Ryan, who we spoke about, was like, "Oh, but if you Google Wizard, no one's gonna come across it." So started looking at domains, and I actually have the initial email. Maybe I'll post it on LinkedIn actually. And I'm like, "What do you think about the name Wizza?" It has kind of the wizardy feel. It's four letters, and the .co is available. And he was like, I like it. So that's how the name came to be. And it kind of kept the wizardy feel. So this is V1 of our logo, um, which has the wizard hat and kind of a unique font. And then this was V2, and then that's current.
V3 as we know it.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's an awesome story. And you keep the magic wand on your desk?
Where is that? I don't have that on my desk, but I do have like a
What is that, a Harry Potter hat? A wizard hat?
yeah.
It's a wizard
Got
hat.
this at
A
the
wizard hat,
got this
sorry.
at the Harry Potter store, but we'll call it a wizard
Yeah, it's a wizard hat.
hat.
Nice. Very cool. And then one more question for you. And this is just because I think people should get to know, the brains behind their favorite companies. What does a perfect day for Steven look like?
Um, I'm like definitely a creature of habit. Like I love doing the same thing every day. I eat the same. I go to the same place for lunch, and then eventually I'll switch. But perfect day for me is waking up early, going to the gym before work. I'm roommates with our COO, so we do that together. We talk about work stuff before we get started. Um, I'm a big country music fan. Um, and so I'm always in our apartment playing country music. Uh, and then going to work, having a good work day. I go to this right now, the place I'm eating lunch every day is called Manja, if you've ever been.
Haven't been.
Um, it's amazing if you're trying to eat high protein because it is essentially just a buffet and they just weigh your plate after. And so they just have like chicken, salmon, steak. And so you just like load up on whatever you want. And yeah, it's unreal. So I have that, come back to work. I don't know, I'm a pretty simple guy. I think my normal work day is pretty much just that, and then, you know, go home and do a bit more work on the couch. But I would say what makes it an especially good day is just like when I feel the momentum of progress, things are moving forward. I love sales and marketing and really every piece of the business, but product for me, surprisingly, has become my favorite thing to work on. So when we figure out the designs for something new and I'm excited, or we just shipped a new feature, or um, something's being worked on and I saw like a V1 of that, that's what makes me feel really excited. And that I think creates the best days for me when I feel like we're moving forward. I feel great. So yeah, sometimes when I'm on vacation, I feel like, oh, I just want to be like progressing. And so,
I can relate to that 1,000,000%. I don't have that ability. Ali and I talk about that all the time. I struggle with it in a big way, and yeah, I tend to pressure people in ways I shouldn't sometimes because of that, because I can't stop. So I'm like, yeah, it's bad. But anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important
Every
to
time when
understand
your
like
team is motivated and there's momentum and you just see them energized, like I feel like that's so gratifying.
it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important to know like no one's ever gonna care to the same degree that you're gonna care. And like honestly, nor should they. Like if you were
Mhm.
working at a different company, like you might care a lot and be like when I was working at the company I worked for, I did care a lot, but it's not to the same level. And that's totally normal because it's like if you have a child, you're never gonna care about someone else's. You might,
Yeah, exactly.
you might care a lot, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
So yeah.
awesome. Well, this has been awesome. It's been a really fun one. I love the story. I think you have so many little hidden gems in your story too that no one really knows about. And I think they should know about because I think it says a lot about the way Wizza came up, the way you guys have been built, where you guys are headed in the future. And also, I mean, yeah, like you're a normal guy. You're a 27-year-old normal guy, creature of habit, living a very normal life that happens to have a bootstrap $13 million ARR data business. It's an insane story. I think it's awesome, and I think the world needs to know it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's great.
Yeah, man, for sure.